Hey, what's up guys, John here. As of this morning, Joan Fabrics has filed for bankruptcy.
Joanne Fabrics files for bankruptcy.
The 81-year-old Ohio-based company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to restructure its $1 billion in debt.
EV maker Fisker has stopped production on their EVs, and they are also warning that they may need to seek bankruptcy. This came out this morning, 9:44 a.m. But what many people don't realize is they'll read some headlines about some companies going bankrupt, issuing layoffs, but the real story is that BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are about to issue a massive takeover on corporate America. This is going to impact all men, women, and children in this country. All schools K through 12. It's going to impact commercial real estate. It's going to impact street services and police departments. It's going to impact every city in America. Whether you're in Portland, Oregon, New York City, Boston, Philly, Atlanta, Chicago, San Francisco, doesn't matter. It's coming to every city and jurisdiction here. Now I'm going to break this down for you. I'm going to show you the facts. I'll even show you the URLs as I go through this, because this has been in the works for a while and it's set to hit the fan this year, next year. Things are going to get out of control and America is never going to recover from this. I'm not being dramatic, but facts are facts and emotion, changes by the day. Look at what's actually going on and you'll see very clearly where we're headed. Please hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate the people about what's going on in America. If you get value from this video and you learn something, consider subscribing. It does a lot for the channel. Also, today's video is sponsored by my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item in a credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session for tomorrow, for Tuesday. Take a look at this. So, and this is shocking. Corporate defaults are happening at the fastest pace since the GFC. Dollar Tree, this is how bad things are right now. Dollar Tree to offer items for $7 as they shift away from single pricing model, right? They need to make more money. They need to be able to, offset some of these losses. They're closing 1,000 locations. So look at what's happening. Some economists worry that corporate debt cliff could become more serious problem as large share of maturing debt that initially was financed at very low rates comes due over the next few years. Now, where do these companies get this debt? Well, they got a lot of their debt in 2020 and 2021, took out a lot of these loans at really low interest rates. Well, they get their debt from institutional investors. Since 1945, U.S. corporate bonds have been primarily through U.S. corporate investors rather than directly through households. Now, who are the top institutional investors that are buying this debt? Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock. So what happens if these companies cannot pay back these institutional investors? Well, the answer is that bondholders will have a claim to the company's assets and cash flows. And so if interest rates remain elevated and these companies can't refinance, what ultimately happens? Well, the institutional investor can take over the assets. That's what happens, right? So it's a massive transfer of wealth that's underway right now in corporate America. But the more you look at this, the more you realize that this is not just going to hit businesses. It's coming for commercial real estate. It's coming for all of us, all cities everywhere. Look at this. As foreclosure risk rise, nearly half of downtown Pittsburgh office space could be empty in 4 years. Now, I've been calling this rug pull because that's what it is. Like, for example, look at this. This came out in 2022, April. Mayor Adams, slow return to office will complicate New York City's economic recovery. He said that at least 20% of the 5-borough office space will remain empty through 2026. So he was forecasting 4 years out, saying you're still going to have 20% vacancy rates in New York in 2026, right? So when people buy commercial real estate, investors buy commercial real estate, 2018, 2019, they were buying it based on 4%, 5% vacancy rate. When you have vacancy rate essentially going from 4 or 5% to 20%, interest rates skyrocketing, insurance and taxes skyrocketing, and what's ultimately going to happen? You're going to start to see a lot less value on these assets, and a lot of these properties have to refinance over the next couple of years. And so a lot of this inventory is going to be going back to the bank, but it gets a lot more crucial, a lot more sensitive for most Americans, because what this actually means is that the tax collection on these properties is going to get cut in half potentially. At least by 40%. And so when you have a massive reduction in tax collections, it means that the city's going to walk into a massive deficit, which, look at New York, for example. Per New Yorker, they have almost $57,000 in debt. In Chicago, $41,000. Honolulu, $26,000. Portland, $23,000. Like, go through the math, the cities are in massive, massive debt. And so that debt is coupled by a massive deficit unfolding in commercial real estate. What is this going to mean? It's going to mean the cities are going to walk into a situation where they're going to issue massive budget cuts across the board. They're getting hit from corporations going under. They're getting hit from that tax revenue. They're getting hit from, tourist revenue. They're getting hit on commercial real estate. All across the board, they're getting smacked. And so when you see what they're going to be doing with schools, safety, spaces, streets, sanitation, services, you can see the future of what is about to unfold here. So look at this. Regional banks hold roughly 2/3 of that $2.8 trillion in just outstanding commercial real estate debt. So they hold, ballpark $1.8 trillion, almost $2 trillion worth of that debt, right? That's going to mean we're going to walk into a lot of restrictive lending inside of America. So on top of that, this is what they're saying is going to happen. Schools. Now look at this. You can't make this up. Schools. What do property tax pay for? Schools, right? Now when you look at schools, what they're going to start doing is, turning it into housing. You've seen, for example, they've discussed turning, temporary housing for migrants in New York City, right? Well, if you just look at schools getting converted into affordable housing, and you go through this 4 weeks ago, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, they're planning this nationwide. $20 million to help convert Marshall Junior High School into housing, abandoned school, Gardner's top grades, adaptive reuse. Miami, this is happening. Like, they're making tough decisions. This is happening everywhere. This is going to be going across the country, 8 pages of this. 3 Michigan schools adapted affordable housing finance. Now, when you look at this, what is ultimately going to be happening is why, this is Time Magazine, by the way. I'm going to pull this down so you can see the URL. Why the nation's largest school district is making virtual school a permanent option. And they're talking about New York City, right? Queens. So you see, like, for example, WF said this, this just came out, I think this was 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And I'll go back so we can see the actual date here. 4 days ago, education meets AI. And so what they say here is that everything is going to be going online. Everything is going to start moving here. All AI offers novel opportunities for deeply personalized learning and tutoring, and is set to turbocharge the ed tech industry while creating uncharted risk for today's learners in schools, universities, and workplaces. Now, they've even said things such as it's more inclusive. People get their own, students get their own education based on their own, learning abilities. Some may, get tailored experiences based on being too quick. Maybe others, take a little bit longer to digest and learn. So they're going to get specific, education based on that. But this is what's going to happen. These schools are going to get converted. And on top of that, when you go look here, safety. This is the future right here, according to, look, as AI is ready to set to revolutionize policing. Are we ready? Even here, New York City mayor to incorporate Israeli drone technology in NYPD. Now what they're doing here is they're following a global perspective that they're getting here. So in Chihuahua, Mexico, massive tower pulls in feeds from thousands of cameras, biometric sensors, license plate readers, drones, and other sensors from infrastructure throughout the region. In the UK, a digital fingerprint machine matching system will allow law enforcement to identify suspects in real time from mere traces of their fingertips. Europol, Innovation Lab. So all of this is what's going to begin to happen over these budget cuts that are going to unfold throughout these cities. And so, look, Mayor Adams visited Israel this week in order to assess Israel's law enforcement technology and the possibility of incorporating it in a New York City Police Department, right? They don't need all these cops, right? They don't need them all. Well, they're going to have some cops, but I think in the future, they're not going to need half as many, like, to say the very, very least. They have like cameras and sensors in the hubcaps of their vehicles, on top of their vehicles. This is what's going to happen. Then you go over here, safety or spaces, streets. Here you look at New York City. This is NYC.gov. They're talking about bringing basically communal trash cans, and it gets really, really interesting when you start to look at this, showing that they're going to have shared containers, and they have, they break it down. They show you exactly how all of this is going to, how this is going to be working. Look at this: 89% of all residential streets, 77% of waste tonnage, up to 10% of parking spaces on residential streets. So when they start to move everything into this, and they start to slash these budgets, just realize that with it, we're going to start to see a lot of jobs go. A lot of jobs. Teachers, admin, trash collectors, officers, everything. But when you look at this unique situation and how this is going to play out, it gets really, really fascinating. Because, what they essentially could have is they literally could have a city operated by people you could fit inside of a traditional one-bedroom apartment. Like, Sam Altman, for example, he came out saying, could AI create a one-person unicorn? Sam Altman thinks so. And Silicon Valley sees technology waiting for us. Now, if you have a situation where these office buildings are getting massively depreciated, intentionally. If, like, for example, if Mayor Adams wanted to bring that office vacancy rate to 4%, 3%, he could. And he could offer incentives for businesses to come back. He could offer incentives to get people to, come into the city. But they're offering policies in which will push people out of the cities. The same thing that we've seen in New York City or in Los Angeles and San Francisco and a lot of these cities, pushing a lot of people to Florida and Texas. So when you see all these changes unfolding, it's very obvious what's going to happen next. There's going to be probably 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people that are going to be able to basically have all the data, all the tech, everything that they need. They'll be able to run it on a shoestring type of budget, and America's going to change forever because of it. So when you look at these corporate bankruptcies and you look at all this, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, they're going to be the beneficiaries of this entire wealth transfer with these corporate bonds, and these cities are going to change forever. But what I find very, very, very fascinating is on top of all this, you look at, for example, migrant crisis inside of New York City. They are saying that they're evicting people after 30 days, and so far more than 183,000 migrants have arrived since the spring of 2022. So if New York is at a situation right now where the average New Yorker owes $57,000 and they're in debt, not personal debt, this is city debt, and then they bring in hundreds of thousands of people, that most of which they need a place to live, they need income, they don't have work permits, they're not legally allowed to work. It just puts individuals in more and more and more debt, forcing a demand for change. And that demand for change is coming. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below. I think we're going to walk into a really big change in American cities in 2024, 2025, and 2026. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself, what I believe is going to be a situation, a scenario of massive layoffs and a fire sale of assets. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any issue at all on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com, click the link in the description just below this video, schedule a free Friday session for tomorrow. I'll catch you next video.